Good afternoon, class 11th. In biology today, once again we continue with chapter 2 called biological classification, and we see children that in video 16 we had studied about slime molds as saprophytic protists, their characteristics we had seen examples of saprophytic protists last time, and we saw and learned about the two types of slime molds last time: plasmodial slime molds and cellular slime molds. And we had also studied about protozoan protists, about characteristics and examples and diagrams of these protists. We studied regarding the characteristics, economic importance of zooflagellates, amoeboid protozoans, foraminiferans, radiolarians, and their unique characteristics, etc. We had seen in video 16. Now today in video 17 we continue with the study of parasitic protozoans or sporozoans. Now what are sporozoans? Sporozoans, children, are parasitic protozoans. They that possess virtually no means of locomotion, and that you see here an example of the sporophytic or the sporozoan protozoans or the parasitic protozoans, children. So here we see children that the sporozoans they are either intracellular parasites. We see that the sporozoans, they are intracellular parasites which are found inside the body of hosts, or intercellular parasites of both invertebrates. They are found both in invertebrates like in mosquitoes, and they are found in vertebrates like human beings, and many are causative organisms of dreadful diseases. And what are these dreadful diseases? Like malaria, like cattle fevers, like coccidiosis in chicken, etc. This is caused by the sporozoans. And we see children that they often undergo complex life cycles as they move from one host to another. They can have multiple host, children. Like in malaria, example, we see that malaria is caused by a sporozoan parasite, Plasmodium. Like we have Plasmodium vivax, we have Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium ovale. All these are the genus and species of Plasmodium parasite. We see that Plasmodia are the actual infection causing agents of the disease. The plasmodial sporozoans, they are the actual agents which cause the infections or the disease like malaria. Like we see the phase is divided into two phases. One phase is completed in the body of the mosquito, the other phase is completed in body of man. So we have sporogony in female Anopheles mosquito, and we have got schizogony in man. And there's a very small intermediary stage that comes, that is known as gamogony. This is the transference phase between schizogony and after the sucking of blood by Anopheles mosquito, the gamogony finally takes the stage known as sporogony in female Anopheles mosquito. Now let us study about this. The mosquito here is the vector, children, and the female Anopheles mosquito plays a very important part in carrying this disease malaria. It passes the protozoan from one host, which is man, to another host. We see here the female Anopheles mosquito here, the primary host, it has a complex cycle of the protozoan in its body. Here we see when mosquitoes bite any human being which is an infected human being, then we see that it releases an anticoagulant into the blood of human beings so that it can easily suck the blood of human through its proboscis. So it pierces the human's blood vessel skin, and it begins to take the blood in through its proboscis. And we see in the digestive tract of mosquito many gametocytes, they are there is a stage, the end stage of schizogony in man, and gametocytes are formed, and these gametocytes of the protozoan of the sporozoan, they are taken into the body of the mosquito. They are sucked into the body of the mosquito, and fertilization occurs within the stomach. The fertilization occurs, and the newly formed zygote, it invades the lining of the gut. We see in the digestive tract of mosquito children, the gametocytes develop into male and female gametes. These gametocytes, which had been ingested by the mosquito while drinking the blood of an infected human being, these gametocytes, they reach the digestive tract of the mosquito, and the gametocytes, they developed into the male and the female gametes. And the fertilization between the male and the female gametes, this occurs within the stomach of the mosquito. And what is formed in the stomach? The zygote is formed, and this zygote, it invades the lining of the gut, or it pierces the lining of the gut, and the lining of the gut now develops into a thick-walled cyst. We see that thick-walled cysts are formed here, and the meiosis within the cyst yields infective haploid sporozoites, which move out of the cyst to the mosquito's salivary glands. So now do you see that these sporozoites, which are infective sporozoites, they move from the mosquito's stomach wall, and they reach the mosquito's salivary glands, and from the salivary glands, salivary glands, when the mosquito bites another human being which is not infected, then there they are in a position to enter this secondary human host. And here is the starting of schizogony in man. In the new host or the secondary host, when a new human victim is bitten by this female Anopheles mosquitoes, the sporozoites, which is the infective stage, it enters into the bloodstream of the human beings, and they migrate to the liver. Where do they migrate, children? They migrate to the liver, where they multiply asexually, and a new stage called merozoite is formed. What is formed? A new stage is formed, and this stage is known as the merozoite stage in the liver. And the merozoites, they move into the red blood cells. We see here that the merozoites, they are moving into the red blood corpuscles or the red blood cells inside the human body. And the merozoites, when they move into the red blood cells, where they reproduce and they rupture the red blood cells, the entire population within a host acts in synchrony, invading the RBCs and breaking out of the cell at the same time. So not only the RBCs they rupture, but they break to to shed this stage of the merozoites. And we see whenever the red blood cells they begin to rupture, the afflicted person begins to suffer chill, and the symptoms are high fever and rigors come. They cause this is caused by the toxin, by the byproducts that are released from the ruptured RBC cells. And some of the merozoites in the blood they develop into gametocytes, and these gametocytes again undergo gamegony stage when they are ingested by another Anopheles female mosquito. So this is the sporozoan, parasitic protozoan, Plasmodium's life cycle in the primary host, which is mosquito, and in the secondary host, which is man. So children, go through this several times, and I have broken the whole life cycle into several points which you will be able to see in the notes. Then children, we come on to the ciliated protozoan, or which are known as ciliates. And we see that ciliates, they are regarded as the most highly evolved protozoans, or most highly evolved protists they are known as. And we see that there are over 700 species of ciliates that are found. We see how many species, children? Almost 7,000 species of ciliates are found. In ponds, they are found in lakes, as well as in the sea. They are mostly free living. We see these species, and the ciliates, they are covered with hair like cilia, which show 9+2 microtubular infrastructure. They have a cavity. What is 9+2? If you remember, I had told you while we were studying about flagellates, children, then at that time I had told you 9 by 2 arrangement. So 9 are arranged radially, the microtubules, and 2 are in the middle. So this is what I am talking about, the 9+2 microtubular infrastructure. This is what I am talking about here. So ciliates, they are covered with hair like cilia, which show 9+2 microtubular infrastructure. And they have a cavity, and this cavity is known as gullet, that opens to the outside of the cell surface. Almost all ciliates, they possess a macronucleus and a micronucleus. The micronucleus, which is a repository for the genetic information. What is there in the micronucleus, children? In the micronucleus, we see this is the repository, or this is the place where all the genetic information is there that will be passed along into the next generation. Then we see in macronucleus what happens. In macronucleus, this contains multiple copies of the genetic material found in the micronucleus. So multiple copies of the genetic material is found in the macronucleus. Then we see the prototype and the best known ciliates belong to the genus Paramecium, and we had seen the Paramecium last time. Here is the Paramecium, children, which we are going to study specifically today. The Paramecium is cosmopolitan in distribution. That means it occurs commonly in stagnant water or on fresh water. Very slowly it moves over decaying organic matter in the fresh, slow moving water. Then we see that the Paramecium, it possesses a constant elongate body shape. We see it is an elongated body shape here, and it has got a blunt anterior end. Can you see this blunt anterior end? This is a blunt anterior end, and it has got a tapering posterior end. This is a tapering of the which is pointed this side, and it looks like a slipper. So that's why it is also given a common name as slipper shaped animalcule. So paramecium is also called a slipper shaped animalcule. And in this we see that the body is covered by cilia. Can you see these long cilia here all around the body? This is covered by cilia, and the body is covered with thin elastic pellicle. There is a wall which you can see here. The pellicle is covering the whole of the body of paramecium, and the pellicle with uniform appearance. Pellicle has got uniform appearance and is composed of a lattice of hexagonal pits. So all over wherever this pellicle is, there are hexagonal pits, and each perforated by a pair of cilia. So in every pit there is a pair of cilia coming out. Then we see that the cilia, they are arranged in longitudinal rows, and they are diagonally aligned along the length of this animalcule, which you can see here. Then we see that there are basal granules that are found. There are basal granules that are found, and each cilium that is coming out, which you can see here, is arising from a basal granule. And children, there is another name to this basal granule, which is kinetosome. What is the other name for the basal granule? It is kinetosome. Kinetosome. And we see there are trichocysts here near every cilia. What are trichocysts? There are perforating the ridges of each pit. Everywhere where there is a pit from which a pair of cilia is coming, we see that there are holes which provide an existence for a flask shaped structure. Wherever there is a hole, there is an existence of a flask shaped structure, and each flask shaped structure here is a trichocyst. What are these trichocysts functioning as? These small dart-like, they are almost arrow-like or dart-like structures which are ejected by paramecium with force so as to stun the prey that it is going to eat. It is to stun the organisms, microorganisms which come close to its pellicle, to its wall, and these are stunned by the trichocysts and then they are ingested. We see that there are two areas in the cytoplasm of this animalcule. One is known as the ectoplasm. The ectoplasm is right beneath this pellicle layer. Do you see this pellicle layer? Right underneath this pellicle layer we have the ectoplasm, and this ectoplasm, children, is clear layer of firm plasmogel. There is a firm plasmogel right underneath this pellicle layer, and we see that inside, deeper inside, is an inner endoplasm. Inside the ectoplasm there is a semi-fluid granular fluid which is known as the endoplasm. We see also there are structures called myonemes, the boundary between ectoplasm and endoplasm. Now this is the ectoplasm outside and the endoplasm inside. So on the boundary here we see there are large bundles of microfibrils. There are large bundles of microfibrils at the boundary between the ectoplasm and the endoplasm. And these large bundles of microfibrils, these are the ones which have been given the name of myonemes. Now these contractile myonemes, they promote change of shape to the animal. These myonemes, bundle-like myonemes, they help in changing the shape of the animal so that the organism can squeeze through very narrow gaps or very narrow spaces. It can become thinner, it can squeeze itself and become thinner, and it can go through very narrow spaces, children. So we see here that the oral groove is also there here. Now what does the oral groove do? Now we see that the oral groove here is a shallow depression. You see what is oral groove here? The oral groove given here is a shallow depression. Can you see this shallow depression, children? Here oral groove is written. This is a shallow depression which is shown here near the anterior end. This is the anterior end, children. This was the pointed posterior end. So near the anterior end there is a shallow depression which is known as the oral groove. And next to the oral groove we have another organelle which is known as the gullet. And this gullet is made by tapering of the oral groove into a narrow tube. This oral groove, it tapers into a narrow tube to make the gullet. And this gullet is having several rows of cilia. Can you see this gullet? This gullet is having several rows of cilia, and these rows of cilia help to drive the food into the cytostome. This place is the cytostome. So these cilia or the several layers of cilia, they help to move the food near the cytostome. And here from the cytostome it is taken into the cytoproct. And what is cytoproct? Cytoproct is a place from where the undigested material from the food is egested, or it is given out from here, and the digested food is taken into the food vacuole, which keeps on further digesting it into simpler substances. Then we see that there are two contractile vacuoles. One is found at the anterior and one contractile vacuole is found at the posterior end. So on both the ends we have got two contractile vacuoles, and we see that they have a number of radial canals. Can you see these canals, children? These are number of radial canals which are around the main contractile vacuole. Okay, children. And what do these radial canals do? These radial canals, they carry the fluid in them before this fluid is poured into the main vacuole. They are the fluid is carried by these radial canals. Then we also come to nuclei. There are two kind of nuclei here. One here is known as the micronucleus and one is known as the macronucleus. The macronucleus is a large bean-shaped nucleus. Can you see here? It is like a bean seed. So this is a bean-shaped nucleus, which is a polyploid nucleus and concerned with the functioning of the cell. This bigger macronucleus is concerned with the normal functioning of the cell. And what about the micronucleus? This is the micronucleus. This diploid micronucleus, and this diploid micronucleus is concerned with the reproductive activity of the paramecium cell. So children, we have completed about the study of various protozoans. We have completed about the ciliated protozoans here. So children, from here onwards we would go on to the next study of kingdom fungi. fungi, although it's not in your course, but we will do a run through this kingdom fungi, so that children, you can have an idea of what is there in this. So children, for today I conclude this video here. Have a good day. Thank you.